She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today.
What are your expectations for spending time with your family this holiday season?
Wow.
Are you bringing the grievances? Are you the one showing up with the contempt and then expecting peace?
Sometimes.
Think about that. What thoughts are you creating this holiday season?
Wow. Great question, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. I feel like, when you're in church and the preacher is, talking about something specific and he's like, you better move your toes because I'm going to be stepping on them.
And you think
You
he's
are
looking right at
on
you?
my toes today. Oh my goodness. I am trying to clear up some energy, and I'm hoping that the rest of you Lemonettes can help me clear this up today. So yes, normally I would say that I am, and I work really hard at clearing my energy before going to holiday functions. I have a very large family, and I have a really loving relationship with everybody most of the time, right? So this particular year, it's really difficult in one particular situation because I've talked about my sister having cancer. And this past Thursday, they told her there was not going to be any more chemo or radiation, and they sent her home, and she's in hospice care now. And but just before the doctor told her that, a good friend of mine was diagnosed with cancer 15 years ago, and 9 years ago, they kind of sent her home, same thing. And she ended up getting in contact with this doctor in Mexico, and he prescribed her some herbs, and in 3 weeks, she was out of hospice care and on her own. And now 9 years later, she's still 100% self-sufficient and does everything on her own. And so there is, a lot of the story has to do with that she also still helps people. She's a chaplain. And so she helps other people go across the border to get this treatment. And so I was friends with her before she was diagnosed with cancer. So I know her story. And so I had her talk to my sister and my sister's daughter. My sister only has one daughter. And so she told them the whole story and how many other people she's helped. And my sister's daughter was upset at me for even kind of introducing the thought. And so in my heart, I'm definitely holding some contempt, because I feel like she's just letting my sister die. And it's just so hard. It's just so hard, and I'll certainly see her on Thursday. And I actually sent her a text this morning and she didn't respond to me. And it's just a very difficult situation.
Your sister didn't respond, or your niece didn't respond?
My niece. Now, I've talked to my sister since then. Like, we had a pretty long conversation yesterday, and her thoughts were she knows that she can't do anything on her own. So she's relying on her daughter. Right. And so, she and my sister and I, everything is good there. And, her last words to me on that was, my little Lulu, you're going to be okay. And because Lulu was my nickname when I was little, that's what they used to call me. And, yeah, and it just made me even more upset because I knew that was her way of saying goodbye. And so I'm just like, I'm just trying to take it all in and just, it's really difficult.
Well,
Really?
first and foremost, Drusilla, I'm sorry that you're going through that you and your family are going through that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That sounds super challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is the reason, or where do you think your niece is coming from in her bitterness or unhappiness about that situation, the introduction?
Well, I think I've felt this way before, or I'm familiar with the feelings, but I think it's that she doesn't want to get her hopes up, nor my sister's hope that there can be a healing. And so she's just kind of refusing to even open herself up to the thought that it could be different.
Wow.
And do you have a read really on what your sister would prefer?
I think she has now, since that was Tuesday, Monday, Sunday, when Janice spoke with her. And her daughter was at the house with her. So they listened to her on speakerphone. When I talked to my sister yesterday, she sounded like she had just surrendered. She said, did anybody get back to you? And I said, no. And she said, well, I'm going to tell you, I'm okay. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not. So she's surrendered that if no one gets her that treatment, that she's okay.
That feels heavy.
Yeah.
That feels heavy. And if we go back to like really look at this, right? Because the only thing that we can control is ourselves, right? That's the whole point, is how we handle ourselves, conduct ourselves, and all of that. So what are Drusilla, if you don't mind, is it okay if I ask you some questions?
Sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your expectation in connecting them together? Your friend that went to Mexico and your sister. What were your expectations going in?
Was to give my sister hope that she could span and extend her lifetime. Mm-hmm. And by that, she's told me some things that she wanted to do. She and I are really close, and we could just talk hours about, different things. So some things that she's wanted to do, she wanted to get remarried. She's 63. And, she wants to travel some more, And so I felt like this friend who knows about the treatment, we hadn't really spoken to her in a couple of years. And she just called me up a few months ago and told me about a book that she had written. It's called Dealing with Grief. And so I read the book, and then I told her about my sister, and she volunteered to speak with her. So I actually let a few weeks pass by because I wanted to make sure that I was doing the right thing and bringing it up and things like that. And so, yeah, my intentions were just to give my sister an opportunity, and to give her some hope for a different outcome.
Mm-hmm. That's really beautiful that you provided that for her too, Drusilla.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to go to solution here. Like, I just want to tell you what I think you should do. Isn't that just the normal human? Well, for me, my normal human response is to make you feel okay, Drusilla. I don't want you to be hurting. I want your sister to live a long, long life, like another 20 or 30 years if possible. I don't want you to be experiencing this. And so I want you to take her to Mexico.
Isn't that the way? Isn't that what we're talking about? Is the human nature is to get in there and fix it, right?
Yes.
Priscilla, I mean, it sounded like part of what you were doing was trying to help fix your sister's situation, which is completely understandable.
Yes.
Yeah.
What else? So another part of the story is that the doctor in Mexico does not speak English. So he has a translator. And so Janice let me talk to the translator before I even set this up. So I'm making sure I cover all my bases. And so when I talked to the translator, he, when I told him the whole story and that my sister's in South Carolina, and he said, yeah, that would be a really long journey for her. I'm pretty sure if we got her medical records, I could convince the doctor to send everything to her via mail. So this wasn't going to be a big thing at all. And, and so he had also his series of stories that he told, because he also transports people across the border to get the treatment. And his story is so beautiful. So he was introduced to this doctor because his wife had lupus and she was given 2 weeks to live. And it's been 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's how he met this doctor. And ever since then, he's been translating for people and driving them across the border for free. 4 hours there, 4 hours back. And he doesn't charge people. And it's just so beautiful. It's just such a beautiful story. Everything about it is beautiful.
I think we're going to have to provide the contact information for our listeners.
Drusilla, how old is your niece?
She just turned 50.
Oh.
Yeah. So she's not.
Yeah, she's not young.
Right.
Who you calling not young?
Well, yeah, I know.
I digress.
I know the way.
She's not like us.
You probably would think she's in her 30s or something.
Yeah. I was thinking in her 20s. Yeah.
But no, she's married with her own family, and it's been difficult for her trying to, because she lives in Georgia and my sister's in South Carolina, so it's just a 2-hour drive, but still trying to manage that and to be there for her mom and everything. And me and my other sisters, so there's 4 sisters, so there's 3 others of us, and we help. I go there and spend the night with my sister. She doesn't need around the clock care or anything, but I just go to spend time, and we all do that, so it's not all left on the daughter. And I have my sisters on the call too, so we had a whole slew of people to listen to everything. And we were hopeful that it would be received well. Yeah.
So now what? Now what are you dealing with internally that your plan to extend her life and to give her hope was shot down? Now what?
Immediately is to get rid of this contempt in my heart. Yeah, that's my immediate. I've let that part go. And I had a very emotional moment with my sister. And now it's because I know, the holiday is Thanksgiving is 2 days away. So I got to really figure out this in my heart, and so that I can be in a good place and have peace.
Right. When you want to punch her, right? And shake some sense into her. I get it. Or maybe you don't, but like, maybe you don't.
Yeah.
So that does bring us to a big, big point. Like, so from your example, Drusilla, you're showing up with this. And how do you deal with it? Like, how do you shake it off? How do you show up with love instead of contempt?
And this can be
in situation.
And this can be applied to so many situations that we walk into with the holidays, like a disagreement from when we were kids, if we're seeing our siblings, or maybe some other situations that's happened between, you and your parent, or it's, I think your situation that you're telling us about, Drusilla, can, we go in with these expectations that even though all this is running in the background, everybody should be kind and loving and caring and supportive, especially with your sister in the situation that she's in, because who knows what's going to happen next. And so, so what do we do? How do we clear it? How do we, make the most of every moment we've got?
Well, I think it's important to honor how you're really feeling. Like, Drusilla, do you want to spew it all out and tell us what you're really feeling? Or is this not the right venue for that?
I have. I mean, I'm not what you've seen. I think you've seen it consistently from me. I'm more of a internalize and kind of work through it emotionally kind of person. I don't know. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had something so big that I don't know how to process it really. I don't know.
I was on a couple different calls this week, and someone said something about being at a crossroads and which path to take. And she said, you just have to take the path that's the closest to love. And I was like, oh, wow. So, I mean, that's an obvious, but yeah, it might be a lot of surrendering, or it might be a lot of saying how you really feel. And I think sometimes, this is a total side note, but I do think sometimes the children, and even though she's 50, a young 50, the children don't realize how much life siblings have led together and how much they love each other. Like, you love your sister just as much as her daughter does.
Mm-hmm.
May not be your mother, but you have that love. And so it's coming from a full heart of love. And it's hard not to be heard, I think, when you're, or received, when it's really from a loving place. And maybe the loving path is to try it one more time or not try it one more time. It is whatever it is for you. But just to honor that love, I think is important.
Drusilla, is your intuition telling you to come at it from a different way, or to let it go? The going to Mexico.
Let it go. I can say that I have tried it twice already. The first time I didn't mention because it was such a small part of the story. But when I was setting up the call originally, I had texted her daughter and said, what would be a good time for you to be on the call? And she responded to me that the fact that I texted her that morning and asked, would she have time in the evening? That was short notice and it was inconvenient of me to even ask. So
Well,
I'm laughing to keep from crying, but that was like,
we also have to remember too that her mom is having a major health crisis, and so it's for her too. And
stressful. Yes.
I get that. And
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a really tough one.
This is a tough one.
Yeah.
So let's look at it like, so you're going to show up, like all of us have to show up at some point, carrying some type of judgment, grievance. I'm so glad, Drusilla, that you brought a hard one to us, right? Because let's just make it hard, right? To really get at it. So,
so many layers here.
So many layers. So, one of the first things that I like to go into is a little bit of compassion. Like, so Penny brought it up, like her mother's going through. So if you were to speak her side of it a little bit, Drusilla, like if you were just to step into this daughter's shoes for a minute, what would that sound like if you were going to be her for a minute?
Yeah, I think it is the fear of riding an emotional roller coaster with her and coming back to the same place at some point anyways.
Yeah.
When she may be further down the emotional road than I am, right? So yeah, that's what it feels like to me. And yeah, so that's what I would guess she's experiencing.
So does knowing that or recognizing that give you a little bit of compassion for where she is?
It does. I think I'm probably more upset and disappointed and her lack of interest in it. And even knowing, because she never followed up once I tried to set up the first call, it was just an attack on the fact that I was trying to schedule it. And so, because I already told my sister that I was going to schedule it, I just went around her and I just scheduled it. And I just happened to schedule it at a time that she was there with her, which worked out perfectly.
So what's the meaning that you made of the fact that she didn't show any interest in?
Yeah. The meaning I made of it was that either she was ego tripping, right? And didn't want it to come from me, or she clearly just was just so emotionally, I don't know what you call it, well, emotionally distraught in dealing with the situation altogether that she just couldn't take on another thought of something like this, so bold and so grand. And another thing I did think about this, of the people in my family that I do talk to about a lot of this. Now, she has been on she's listened to our podcast and she was on our Facebook Live and things like that. But as far as plant-based medicines and things like that, that's probably furthest from her mind a lot of the times. Whereas some other people might be really receptive to it, right? So it could be just the thought of that in and of itself. So there are many different things, and I think what's coming up for me now, I guess this was your point, Morgan, to keep talking and things come up, right? Is that to come from a place of forgiveness about everything that I'm thinking and the stories that I'm making about it. And it's usually so easy for me to forgive. And I'm guessing I'm doing the same thing as she. I'm operating from my place of not wanting to deal with this situation in a certain way. I want to deal with it my way, right? And that's what she's doing. So yeah. I think the first thing I need to do is do some forgiveness.
I had a very, very minor situation happen this week, like just a shadow of what you're dealing with, not even like in the same category, but it really tripped up my ego. And I felt very misunderstood and unheard. And the little girl in me, the ego in me, really wanted to kick and scream and set the record straight and make sure everyone knew that I had done nothing wrong, and make sure everyone knew that in addition to not having done anything wrong, I had taken steps, like proactive steps, to get a ball rolling, to get some momentum in a situation that needed to move forward. And like just this whole like thing kept resurfacing, and it was a minor thing. And that little ego, little girl voice kept showing up like, you need to send a text to the group and make sure they know that you didn't do anything wrong. And I kept like shutting it down and doing the forgiveness work. Like, no, that is ridiculous. This is just a story I'm making up in my mind about what's going on here. But that little bastard was persistent. And this was over such a tiny thing. And like, even though we know all these tools and we practice them, these patterns of thought are so deeply grooved into our brains that
Yes.
it is not easy to practice it sometimes. And I can only imagine with the situation as like intense as what you're dealing with, how much louder that little girl in you might be screaming right now. So I have a lot of compassion for the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think it really matters how big or small, because it's the healing is for us, right? And it feels just intense for you, I'm sure, as mine feels for me. So that's the bottom line. And yeah, I have come to grips with it as a whole in saying, I do understand that everything I'm experiencing is for me. It's not for my niece or for my sister.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me. And I know that I have to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
What about your sister, Drusilla? Are you like, what are your thoughts about her? Like, is there any, like, she needs to like stand up and insist, or is there, she needs to fight for her life? Like, is there anything, any of your, what are you holding anything against your sister?
No, not at all.
That's good.
Yeah. And that's because we were able to talk about it and talk it through. And we even laughed about it. Because I told her, we all know the joke, it comes in different forms, but when the guy was stranded out in the ocean and he prayed for God to save him, and God told him he was going to save him, a helicopter came, another boat came, and so I told my sister, and she is very religious, and so we laughed about that. I'm like, well, you prayed and he sent Janice. So no, my conscience, and I think hers too, it's very clear. We don't have any concerns about it with each other. I think she was just looking for her daughter's blessing, and yeah.
I think
So
that's
it
one of
sounds
the,
like
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Amanda. I was just going to say, it sounds like there's maybe some blame there, which I can't blame you if that's what you're feeling. Like feeling like yeah. And I guess you said that at the beginning, resentment that she's standing in the way of what can be a healing for your sister.
What I was going to say is, isn't it like that's one of the hardest things to do in life is let other people live their lives, whatever
Mhm.
path that they choose.
Mhm.
Yeah. So is one way of showing up for the holidays, like, and one way not to bring contempt or grievances is to let go of judgment, right? To show up with, that's easier said than done, but that's a big tool.
Mhm.
There's a great quote from the Big Book, and I may not have it completely correct. I'll just paraphrase it as I remember it. But my serenity is in direct proportion to my level of acceptance. And so, I mean, Melissa's been talking about acceptance all year long. And
Yes.
so maybe that's what this comes to too, is it's not just empathy. It's not just forgiveness. It's also acceptance.
Yes.
What
I
is.
agree. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not unlike being married to a diabetic who doesn't eat right, or an alcoholic who can't get off the booze. Like, we see potential for someone, and we're hanging everything on that, and then there goes our serenity because it's not an acceptance of what the reality is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great point, Penny.
Yeah, it's humbling too. It's really humbling.
Mhm. And the acceptance covers the gamut, right? It covers everything. Whereas the forgiveness is just a partial, it's fragmented.
Mhm.
And yes, yes.
I like that word humbling, right?
Mhm.
Right. It is humbling to know that, like, it's not ours to fix somebody else. It is very humbling to know that, other people might not even want us to fix it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But we also have to. I personally believe that God has us, puts angels in front of us in human form, and so we don't know if this woman that's helping these people and get to Mexico, if she's not one of God's angels doing the work for him. So I mean, there's so many layers here that you can go into acceptance and then you pop back out. Then you go.
Trust me, Penny, I've been doing.
Oh man.
Yes.
Yeah. There's another quote in Al-Anon that it's been one of my biggest learning is live and let live. Everybody
Mhm.
gets to live life the way they want to. And it's not up to me to tell them how that should be. And so I get to live life the way I want to. Your niece gets to live the life the way she wants to. Your sister, you. Yeah. And I think I always have the greatest ideas for people. And I have to constantly check myself. Like I have to say, okay, Penny, is this yours or are you trying to tell somebody else what to do? It's a process for me. It really
And
is.
it's so funny because that's usually my motto. That's it. Like live and let live. Like I don't typically give people, especially something this big, probably, and that's probably why I sat on it for so long. But yeah, it's I'm moving forward and I am looking for healing these emotions I have inside so that I can have a great Thanksgiving and to be present and to not go there with contempt and expect for it to be peaceful.
Yeah.
And what I know is that peace is coming to you. Like, I think sometimes we feel frustrated when our spiritual practice doesn't yield instantaneous results, but I see your willingness and I know that the healing is happening. And I know also that every path is perfect, and that includes your sisters, and that includes no matter which choice you make.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, Morgan.
Well, and I know this is unusual for us, but I wondered if we could like invite Amanda to say a prayer for Drusilla and for her family and for her sister before we close out today.
I would love to.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah. And we can bring all of our listeners into the prayer.
Yeah. So what I'm inviting everyone to do is just to pause. And I am grateful for this reminder to pause into my day, to enjoy this breath, to know in this moment that light and love are present. I am grateful for us coming together, and I'm grateful to know that we are all connected in love. And what I know through this love is that Drusilla and her family are on a path of healing. What I know is wholeness is everyone's birthright. I am grateful for our willingness to let go of having to fix other people and to know wholeness. What I know is the highest and best is unfolding, even if I don't know what it looks like. I am claiming this as done. I am blessing Drusilla's, her sister, and her sister's daughter, surrounding them in compassion and love, letting go of fixing and needing and claiming wholeness and love. And so it is. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Boy.
Thank you, Amanda.
Great.
Beautiful.
To wrap up this episode. What a beautiful prayer, Amanda. And I'm just so grateful and thankful to be on this journey with you all. Yeah. So
thank you for sharing so authentically with us today, Drusilla.
No, thank you all for, I feel like you all have been on this journey with me. So, I could not share with you.
So grateful that you have felt that safe, that you could do that, and just know that we've got your back, right? Yeah. So I just have a couple of Post-its to really seal the deal for this episode. When at the crossroads, which path to take? Take the path that's the closest to love. I just really love that, Melissa, when you shared that. And then the talking points where we want to go to. We want to go to empathy, forgiveness, acceptance, live and let live, and have it all with a big old helping of willingness as we go through all of this. So life is so full and so rich of opportunities for us to grow and to practice our spiritual journeys, our tools that we have. And so I trust that as the audience, you were able to learn maybe something that you can do slightly differently during these holidays to go into it with peace and love and forgiveness and acceptance, and just know that everybody gets to live life the way they want to. And if we can just all take that in as we walk into the holidays, they might turn out a little bit in a different way, or they might continue to be dysfunctional. Who knows? I guess that's for another episode, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
with that, you might hear us talk about that soon. May you all have a beautiful rest of your day, and keep tuning in. We really love sharing our spiritual journey with you. And blessings to Drusilla, your sister and niece, and your whole family.
Thank you.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.